Today's recipe calls for watermelon. I'm going to show you how to make the best summertime drink ever, also known as watermelon agua fresca. It's super simple and there's very few ingredients to it. This thing is super awkward to hold and it's starting to get heavy. So with that said, let's get started.
The first thing we need to do is pick a quality watermelon. In theory, these three things should help you pick the best one possible. The first thing you're gonna do is knock on it a couple times, and if it sounds hollow and nobody's home, then it's good to go. The next thing you're gonna do is give it a few watermelon bicep curls. If it's super heavy, then that means it holds a ton of juices. The last and final thing you're looking for is a giant yellow spot like this. This means it's been vine ripened, so it's at its fullest potential to be sweet, tasty, and juicy. Now that your little heart is content with your watermelon choice, you're gonna grab a sharp knife and cut off both ends. This will help make it a whole lot easier to cut off the rind later. The next thing we need to do is cut our watermelon in half. Hopefully you do a better job of cutting yours in half than I did. Mine's pretty lopsided. After you have it split, you're gonna give it a quick taste test to see how sweet and delicious your watermelon tastes. Now that snack time is over, you're gonna choose whatever half that speaks to you the most. I'm only gonna use half for this recipe. Of course, if you want more agua fresca, go ahead and use the full watermelon. Once you figure out what half you're gonna use, you're gonna start to cut off the skin and the rind. I like to first cut off the skin and then go back later and clean up the watermelon, cutting off all the white part, also known as the rind. This way I'm not cutting too much into our watermelon and wasting any of the delicious goodness. You can save the watermelon rind and pickle it. It's a super old school recipe. I ended up using a medium to large size melon for this recipe. You want to buy and use a seedless watermelon. It's really important you do this because we all know if you eat watermelon seeds, then a watermelon's going to grow in your tummy and nobody wants that. The most effective and efficient way to cut off rind and skin is to run your blade along the curvage of your melon. This will help ensure you cut off all the stuff we don't want. Now that you have everything cleaned up, you're going to cut your half into half again. Then you're going to set it flat side down and you're going to start to slice your watermelon into 1/4 inch half moons. Now that you have your half moons made, you're going to turn it and start to cut it the opposite way. You're going to cut your watermelon into about 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch chunks. It really doesn't matter how big or small you go. It's all going to be blended up either way. You want to cut it into the perfect size that you think your blender will be able to handle. You're going to repeat the same process for whatever amount of watermelon you decide to use. Now that everything is cubed up and ready to go, you're going to bust out your death trap, also known as your blender, and you're going to start to fill it up with your watermelon chunks. You're going to use your best judgment for your style of blender on how full you need to fill it. I filled my blender almost all the way full. I left about a 1/4 inch gap between watermelon and lid. This way, once it starts to blend up and become a liquid, it won't overflow it without liquid. Now that your blender has met its capacity with chunks of watermelon, you're going to blend it on high for 30 to 40 seconds or until everything has been liquefied. Now that you have a liquid of watermelon, you're going to grab a large holding apparatus and a strainer, and we're going to strain our watermelon juice. This is totally optional and isn't traditional, but straining it will catch all the excess pulp, giving us a smoother drink in the end. And of course, don't pour out your sharp blades as well with your watermelon juice because it's dangerous. Just a small piece of advice. Repeat the same process for the rest of the watermelon you decided to use. Now that everything is blended up and in your strainer, you're going to grab a rubber spatula or a ladle, and you're going to lightly press on your watermelon fiber or pulp, and you're going to give it a quick stir as well. This will help agitate everything to release some of the excess juice that it's holding. You may end up pushing some through your strainer into your agua fresca, which is totally fine. Here's a little pro tip on how to easily and quickly clean your blender jar. Give it a quick rinse with warm water, then throw it back on the motor. And you're going to add about a 1/4 cup to 1/2 cup of warm water and a few squirts of some dish soap. After you have your soapy water added to your blender, you're going to turn it on to high and let it blend for about a minute or so, or until it's completely clean. Once that's done, you're going to pour it off and give it a quick rinse and let it dry. Now you can play yourself in a quick game of tic-tac-toe with all that time you saved. Now that your watermelon agua fresca is done, you're going to give it a quick taste test and adjust the seasoning as needed. If it's not sweet enough for you, now is the time to add a simple syrup, which is super easy to make. It's equal parts water to sugar. I ended up using 6 pounds or 2.74 kilograms worth of watermelon. This gave me almost 2 quarts worth of watermelon juice. This will give you a rough idea of how much I have and what I'm adding to my agua fresca. I'm adding 1 cup of cold water. The next thing I'm going to add is the juice from 2 small limes. This is totally optional and up to you if you want to do this. After you add your lime juice, you're going to give it a quick whisk of the face to ensure everything is nice and well incorporated together. Then you're going to give it another quick taste test and adjust the flavor flavors as needed. Now that you have your flavor dialed in on your watermelon agua fresca, you're gonna grab your favorite glass and fill it up with ice. This drink is best served cold, so you want to ensure it's nice and chilly. Then you're gonna pour yourself a full drink, and you're gonna grab your reusable steely straw named Dan. You can garnish with some fresh mint or some lime rings. Whatever you decide to do, just enjoy. And by the way, cheers.
Alright, now that our watermelon agua fresca is done, let's give it the old taste-a-roo. So looking at it, it looks super aesthetically pleasing. It's nice and bright and vibrant in color. Yes, mine is a little bit more pink than it is red, which is totally fine. It smells really sweet from the natural sugars that the watermelon holds, and it smells super watermelony. So let's give it a taste. This drink is without a doubt a thirst quencher. It's super light on the palate. It's really refreshing and bright in the flavor department. The watermelon brings a ton of flavor and some natural sugars as well to sweeten up the drink. The lime juice we added adds a bit of acid to help cut through the sweetness and the richness of our watermelon, and it also brightens up the drink as well. And watermelon and lime just go perfect together. The little bit of water we added kind of toned down the watermelon so it wasn't overpowering and too strong. It's just a perfect balance. Overall, this drink is super refreshing and you have to make it. This drink is super easy to execute and makes for the perfect beverage for a large get-together like a barbecue. And if you really want to make it even more bougie, maybe add some fresh mint leaves or some lime wedges. And if you want to get basic white girl with it, add some vodka or rum while you're jamming out to that Harry Styles watermelon song. So hopefully you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. I have another half of a watermelon I need to figure out what to do with, so we'll see you on the next one. More pink than it did red. You gotta put it up so people can see it, not down here. Up here, not here, up here, up here, not down. I liked adding the water to it because it definitely tones it down so it's not overpowering in the water department. Flavor department. Natural sugars and a ton of juices to make it super flavorful in the watermelon department.